Welcome everybody to Renaissance Hotel. I really appreciate you guys coming. Thank you so much. Thank you, George, for coming. Nice to see you, Mark. Thank you for giving me a little bit of time to talk to you about real estate here in the Austin area. And I wanted to give you a little bit of idea of what got me here. I've been doing these seminars here. Actually, we started the Renaissance Hotel here in 1994. So this has been 18 years I've been doing these presentations. I've also then started doing these presentations for investing around the country. And so basically been in Irvine and in Newport Beach and back east in Las Vegas, talking about real estate investing as well. So I always like to start off my seminars by saying that, though it's a free seminar, it's a free presentation, that it's a very valuable seminar because of your time. If you take the count of what your hourly rate is, what your hourly wage is, and you're sitting here listening to me for a couple hours, then it's a very valuable seminar. So I really appreciate it. It's not about me. This is about you. And that's what I want to pour out to you guys as much. The format's going to be the first hour. I'm going to be talking about the 10 steps of the real estate process, purchasing, which is based out of my Home Buying Secrets book. And this book I wrote a couple of years ago. It's been very popular. A lot of the builders have taken this and give it to their clients. And it's really geared more towards first-time home buyers. When I started the seminars in 1994, I realized that in Austin, there weren't a whole lot of venues for people to learn how to buy their first home. And so a real estate agent came to me and said, can you do a presentation teaching people how to do this process? Because I've been selling real estate now for 30 years. And so I said, sure, I'll put together something. And that's what started where this book came from. And it's got 167 secrets. It's meant to be the insider guide to being able to get you from point A to point B. There really isn't a whole lot of educational forums for buying your first home and or buying your next home. A lot of people bought a home before and they think, oh, I know this process, I've been through that. The world changes, especially in the mortgage market. And Mark Hairston with Mortgage IQ, who's a Texas state licensed instructor, is going to come in after me after about 11 o'clock, 11:10, and talk a little bit about mortgages, because we know the whole mortgage market has been a challenge lately. But the good news, we now have the lowest interest rates in history. When I started doing real estate in 1983, interest rates were 11.5%. And I think when George started in real estate, interest rates were somewhere around 17%. So now I never thought they'd get below 5. I thought it was crazy for anybody to even predict that they'd get below 5. And now we're at 3.25% plus or minus, depending on what day it is. The other thing about mortgages is that I used to own a mortgage company. We used to have these manuals. They were about this thick. They were guidelines, and we were able to pretty much depend on those guidelines to be able to, as once we learned the guidelines, we knew everything there was to know about mortgages: Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FHA, all these government programs. Not so much anymore. They change so fast, the rules change so fast, the programs change so fast that you need to be in constant contact when you're buying real estate with your lender to come up with, okay, what is the new rules now? I mean, I've got to call every other day to find out, okay, are we still at that? Is that loan limit still the same? So it's been a challenge. The book started off with my introduction, which is I bought my first home when I got my first real estate license in Anchorage, Alaska in 1983. I just fresh out of high school, got a real estate license at 19 years old, and also bought my first home. And one of the things I remember about the first home buying experience was it was really a very scary experience all the way through, lots of mystery. And then I bought that home and it was a little 1,200 square foot house on Muldoon Road in Anchorage, Alaska. And I thought to myself, I'm turning 49 this year. If I just kept that house, put it on a 30-year mortgage, it would be paid off now.
That's right.
And I'd have a nice little cabin in Anchorage, Alaska to go fishing, send my relatives to, or whatever, or just rent it out and for cash flow. So that very first home that I paid, I think it was $72,000 for back in 1983, is probably now worth $270,000. So just that one home would be a really big swing, and that's why I'm trying to tell my clients and everything is real estate is a medium to long term investment. And then I think about my rich dad poor dad story, which is also in here, and it talks about how my true father bought his first home when I was born in 1963. He bought it, and he paid $17,000 for it in San Mateo, California. $17,000 on a VA loan. He sold that home about 2 or 3 years later for $27,000. So he thought he was doing pretty good. Nice return on his investment, right? Well, that home now is worth about $1.2 million. That's not counting the 20% drop that it had because it was worth $1.5 million. It would have been paid off 10 years ago, and he would have, what I've called that, just that one house would have made him what I call an accidental millionaire. He could have lived in it for free and clear. He could have also rented it out for cash flow during his retirement years, or he could have sold it and made $1 million, just that one house. And the stories go on. If I remember all the houses I lived in growing up, and whether my parents moved and bought it or moved and leased it, I went back through all the home values in all those homes, and they added up. Just moving from one house to another over the time was $5 million. Just single-family residential houses. So it starts with your first one, and we've got a lot of slides to cover. This is very informational, and so take good notes. But the good news is this will be recorded for playback. So if you weren't able to catch it all, because if anybody's ever attended one of my presentations, they're saying like, this is a fire hose of information. And I like to do that because to get it all, your time is valuable. You go back and review it on YouTube. My YouTube channel is Kenn Renner, my name, Kenn with 2 N's, Renner with 2 N's, .tv. So I've got all these presentations on KennRenner.tv. All right, so let's get started here. So I already told you 30 years in real estate, over 250 million in sales, residential sales, mostly here in Austin, over $100 million I've closed in the last 5 years. I've been on HGTV House Hunters 3 times with about 3 dozen replays of that. And so it's really the experience of being able to buy a home on national TV was really exciting. And so the way this is going to work, we're going to have the first half of it is going to be for the first time home buying between 11 and 11:15, and then we're going to take about a 10-minute break. Then we're going to get into Austin investments. And we're going to talk about some pretty heavy strategies on how to build up a portfolio of real estate and get it paid off. These are my books that I've got. You guys each received a free copy of the Home Buying Secrets book. If you don't read any other chapter in this book, please read chapter 5, because that's the 10 steps of the home buying process. And that I find why I've started these seminars, I found an educated buyer is so much easier to work with than a buyer that's in the dark. And I really find if you go through the 10 steps like we're going to go through here, you're going to find that I have my clients saying, okay, we're on step 3 now. They're reminding me what their steps are. So I think that I think it's really valuable. And there's also credit repair secrets in here, and mortgage secrets, and home builder secrets, and they're all divided into chapters so you can be educated and kind of be smarter than the average home buyer when you go out there. Power Goals is my new release from last year. It's 12 steps of goal setting, and it's also the 12 proven steps. I find that people set goal to buy a home. It's so much easier for them to actually buy a home or investment property when they have their goals. And so that's another book that I wrote. Those are available at the front for $15 for one, or $25 for 2. So, and also, of course, you've got this book for free. Next session, as we come up in 11:30, I'm going to be teaching out of the Real Estate Millionaire Investor, written by Gary Keller, who is the chairman of the board of Keller Williams International, the second largest real estate franchise in the world, of which I belong to. I'm with Keller Williams, and I'm also a coach for Keller Williams. We'll also be going out to the Irvine Hyatt in California to do a presentation similar to this, to bring in real estate investors. That'll be on October 24th and 25th. It will also be streamed live, so if you want to see that, you can be here and watch it on your from your computer. I'll also be doing a real estate investor club, which is free. And anybody signed up and got an email, we'll sign you guys up for a free real estate investor club, so I can keep you informed about all these great, wonderful new changes that are coming along. All right, this is funny because I took this picture from the Hyatt Regency in downtown in 2002, and now look at it. That's what it was. I used this picture for years, and now I knew I had to go back, so I went back to the top of the Hyatt. Do you think we've grown a little bit? It's pretty exciting, you know. I mean, look at the buildings. I mean, it's like, I mean, this is downtown. Obviously, we know. I'm going to show you some pretty interesting charts about what's going to happen to the population in the Austin area and why it's time to buy. It's time to buy before rates go up, and it's time to buy before rents go up and before prices get too out of hand. Okay, so I like to always say that real estate's a comeback kid right now. It's been 5 years since 2007 when the mortgage market crashed. The good news is that it didn't happen in Austin like it did around the rest of the nation. And that's the unfortunate thing is the news pundits say that, oh, you know, the rates, you know, values around the nation drop. Well, not in Austin. Austin stayed pretty much stable for the last 5 years, while you've seen 30 and 40% drops in other parts of the country. We have the best time to buy real estate, lowest cost of money in history, 3.25%. 3.787% APR for those RESPA people that want to keep me federally regulated here. All right, Warren Buffett said recently on CNBC, along with equities, single-family homes are a very attractive investment right now. Warren Buffett, very conservative and one of the richest, actually the richest man in the world next to Bill Gates, right? If held for a long period of time and purchased at low rates, Buffett says houses are even better than stocks. That's coming from the stock market guru himself. Buffett said that he'd buy up a couple 100,000 single-family homes if it was practical to do so. So, well, if Warren Buffett would be willing to do it, why can't we just buy one or maybe 10? You know. All right. So, investors in 2007, 2012. Let me tell you the dynamics of the Austin market. We are in a rental housing shortage. Why some of you people are here in this room is because you want to learn how to get away from these rising rents. Well, let me tell you something, rents are going to continue to go up. Because have you seen bulldozers out in the countryside turning up the ground? No, they're not building enough housing for people to move here. Now we have the highest job growth in the nation. People are moving here from all over the world and all over the nation. And they've got to live somewhere, and they usually will not buy a house immediately. They usually will get settled before they go in and buy a house. And what we have here is that the apartments are almost full. The rental housing is almost full. And we've raised our rents as landlords as much as 20% in the last year. So for home buyers, it's time to get out of the rental rat race if you can. And here's what's going to happen: if you can qualify for a home, or if home buyers can qualify for a home, then they're going to buy because they're going to be tired of the raising rents. And I've talked to the president and CEOs of all the major home building companies in Austin, and they're saying because of the rising demand of labor costs, land costs, development costs, financing costs, the prices will go up. So stop paying rent. And if you're a landlord, raise your rents. Okay, so many are forced to, I'm not going to read these slides. There's too much. I got 87 slides to get through, so I'm not going to read these. It's kind of insulting to read the slides. The bottom line is that labor, material, lots, land, interest rates are low, but being able to get development money for these builders and these developers has been difficult. So that's why you haven't seen bulldozers out there, and that's why we're going to see housing go up. And it's been a nice feeling to know that our real estate's going to start going up again. You can't read this chart, so I'm not going to do it, but I will send everybody a copy of this PowerPoint. If you do go back to this chart, it will be interesting to see. This is something we put together last month. 20%, 23%, 30%, 20%, 25%. These are all the areas of Austin that those are the rental rate increases over the last 1 to 5 years. Huge. So here's the reason why. Look at this. Austin leads anytime you think about real estate, it's jobs. Everything hinges on jobs. The ability to get financing and employment. There's Austin again. Look at that job rate. Highest in the nation right now. Isn't that exciting? And guess what? People are finding out about it. And guess what? If they're in California or Fresno and can't work, where are they going? They're moving here. It happened. In 1993, I moved here. You know why? Because I saw what was happening in the California market. I have a chart to show that. Let's see if I got it here. No, I don't. It's in the second chart. Yeah. If you wait for the second seminar, I'll show it to you. But what happened is 1990, we saw the affordability factor in California go down to less than 8%. That means less than 8% of the people could afford a medium price house. I was in real estate, I was in lending. I'm like, oh, this doesn't make sense anymore. What's going to happen is we're going to have a real estate recession, and that's exactly what happened. From 1990 to 97, we saw the drop in prices, and we saw the highest foreclosure rate in California in recent history was before this last crash was in 1997. And I didn't want to write that down, so I took advice from my father-in-law and said, hey, you ought to go check out Austin, Texas, because he was getting his investments out, and you ought to go check out. It's a nice place to go. I got here as quick as I could, and I never turned back. I got married in 93, and we ended up living here and building up our own portfolio of real estate, which I'm glad we did. But we were chasing the people that could qualify for mortgages because of the jobs. Jobs were moving here. It was just as it is now. It is 3 times more expensive to hire a U-Haul out of California than it is to go to California or any other state that's in where people are moving from. So look at the population growth. This is from the Census Bureau. I got these slides from the Texas A&M Research Center. And you can just dial that in, Texas A&M Research Center in Google, and you can get these slides. But Jim Gaines, who did this prediction, said it was actually going to be a little steeper climb than what's on this chart as far as the population growth. Medium price homes. Now, this is going back to 1990 in Austin. Do you see any? We don't see any huge drops. This is very consistent growth in value. This is going back to 1990, long before I even moved here. This is what 23 years of history of the median price. In fact, we've hit the highest median price in Austin this last summer, ever. I mean, you don't hear that on national news. You hear about short sales, and you hear about foreclosures, and you hear about how this market's crashing and it's never going to recover. This is why we live here in Austin. We can pretty much count. There's a couple years, like 2002, 2003, where we had some flattening out, and then of course the last couple years have been relatively flat. But look at that green line. Isn't that exciting stuff for us that are here in Austin?
Yes.
Another chart, same chart, but with a little bit more of a moving average. You can see it kind of fluctuates, but you don't ever see these big giant drops like you see in other parts of the country. And there's a number of reasons for it. One of the big reasons is Mark, our lender, can tell you, is that they don't allow cash out equity loans on owner-occupied houses. And that's what prevented a lot of our crash from happening. That in values, not only are we on counter cycles to the coast, but we also, you can't pull out, you can only go to 80% of the value of the property. So it wasn't, in other parts of the country, you could pull out 110% of the value of the price of the home back in 2005, 2006. People were pulling money out of their properties, and then of course, the whole thing came crashing down. Okay, so I'm going to get into a little bit more about building a team, and one of the big things we talk about is trust. I've been using the same thing here, the same chart here for a long time, but I think even more than now, we've seen that people have lost trust in real estate, they've lost trust in real estate professionals, they've lost trust in mortgage companies, title companies, Bank of America. Oh, I better not say that out loud. Yeah. Anyways, the bottom line is that we've lost trust. So, but you know what? We can gain that back, because the bottom line is our population going down worldwide? Is our population going down in Austin? They keep coming. People keep coming no matter what, and they're going to need housing. All right. So housing is what we're looking at for you guys. Now, foundation of truth, integrity, and that's without that, and that's real estate agents are ranked just below below politicians and used car salesmen as a Harris poll. It's the third least trusted industry. So you gotta find, there are some people you can trust out there, but it starts with a foundation of truth, a mutual respect. So a mutual respect for, I respect your time and the value of what you're trying to do, what your goals you're trying to accomplish, and you respect us as professionals. So there's a mutual respect, because I can tell you, I work with some clients that don't respect their real estate and mortgage professionals. It's frustrating for us too, but certainly we've seen it go the other way. The whole thing too is about understanding. We're going to understand what you're trying to accomplish. Every home buying experience, every real estate investment is a different experience. So it's mutual understanding, and that's what builds this trust to the top, where you feel secure enough to give your actual personal information, your personal aspirations, your dreams and your goals to your real estate professional so they can help you meet that. And until you get to all that, you won't get to what I call tethering, which is the most important as a real estate professional or a mortgage professional. What I mean by tethering is where you're willing to throw the rope out to your friends and family and neighbors and say, hey, this is the guy you should go to. Until you get to the top of this pyramid, you're not going to refer. You're not going to refer your friends and relatives and coworkers until you know that this guy is truthful, respectful, he understands what we're doing, I'm secure with giving him my information. Now I'm going to throw out the rope to my friends and neighbors and coworkers. That's the highest compliment a professional can get, is that referral. The tethering goes both ways. What happens when a professional mountain climber is leading up his people to the top of the mountain? What does he usually do if they're amateurs? If they've never done this before? They tie a rope to themselves and they tie a rope to the people climbing the mountain so that it's a full commitment. If the person's going down, it's the professional is there holding them up. And I can tell you in real estate, it's a fun challenge climbing that mountain. And when you get there, it's very satisfying. But we are also tethered to you to help you get to the top of the mountain, to accomplish the objective. Whether it's to buy one house or an apartment complex, it doesn't really matter. But I want to get to the point where you'll tether me to you and your friends and relatives. One of the things that we talk about is a trusted advisor partners. A lot of realtors are salespeople that are really kind of individual people that don't have a team of people. Now, I've been doing this for 30 years, 20 years here in Austin. And what we have is a series of people that are all at your access, that's all available to you. I can pick up the phone and call one of the best real estate attorneys in town, and he won't charge me anything because of all the business that I give his title company, right? Lenders, I got one of the best lenders in town sitting in the room from Mortgage IQ, Mark Hairston, who's going to come talk to us. These are hand-picked people that are proven that they get the job done. And there's a reason why that, I know the builders, I know the president and CEOs of all these building companies and the private money lenders and financial planners. If you need any of these, they're at my disposal to give to you. And a lot of real estate professionals, number one, can you believe it? They don't have a network like this. Number two, I'm not bagging on my industry, but they don't even know, some of them don't even own real estate. Some of them live in an apartment. So it's really important that you work with a professional that has this network involved so that you can tap into it. All right, so we're going to go to the home buying process. Rent versus owning. First of all, we've got security. There's no lease, no rent increases when you own a home. One of the things that's really exciting about that is when you get a 30-year mortgage at 3.25% or 3.5%, it's fixed for 30 years. But guess what? We do have a measure of inflation. You're paying that mortgage back in lesser value dollars, right? Because your money's worth less as you go, but you're paying it back over with lesser value dollars. Rents will increase, and the reason why, because it follows consumer price index. It's going to go up because everything over a period of time, including the value of properties and rents, will go up. So rent is more expensive than a home payment. When your lease expires, you won't be forced to move. That's another big thing. My sister was living in a house for 6 years in Costa Mesa, California, and she was fixing up. She was renting, and she was happy to live there. The owners one year decided they're going to sell it. They had to move. They'd lift up the whole family, go find another place, pay higher rent. That's one of the great things about owning your own property. As long as you pay the taxes and the mortgage, you won't have to move. All right. Here's another big thing, tax benefits. Number 2, tax benefits. The interest on home mortgages is tax deductible, and most of your payment is interest and property taxes. So interest and property taxes are 100% tax deductible off of your income. When we get to the investor side of things, we're going to talk about even some more in exciting tax deductions. But the bottom line is that we have people that say, well, I'm paying $1,200 a month rent for this apartment or this house, and that's where I want to keep my payment. But they're missing the fact that they are now going to have the best deduction that they have. Is the deduction on their home mortgage and in tax deduction. In other words, if you pay $15,000 in home payment, and you're making $60,000 a year, the government will allow you to knock that $15,000 off of your ordinary income, and now you're only going to be taxed on $45,000. Okay, so what it is that if you're in the 25 or 30% tax bracket, that 15,000 that you're going to get to deduct actually works out to be about $250 a month in deduction that you're going to get that the government's not going to take out of your paycheck. So a lot of people miss that, and they say, "Wow, I'm paying $1,200. I want $1,200." I say, "Great, then you can afford $1,450 or $1,550 and have less going out of your pocket every month and every year." And they say, "Well, that's all fine and good, but I don't want to have to wait till next year to get my deduction." No, you don't do that. You go to your employer and say, "I want more. I want to take out less out of my paycheck," claiming more exemptions because I'm a homeowner now. And all of a sudden, you'll see that your paycheck is going to be larger. I have to say, I'm not a tax planner, I'm not a CPA, and I can't give tax advice, but this is the biggest thing, and a realtor, the National Association of Realtors will fight to the end on this tax deduction that is allowed for homeowners. Okay? Last thing, renting versus owning, investments. Leverage is the key. You can buy a property for anywhere from 3.5% to 0% down. Right now, and when you see the charts of where the economists say the value of property is going, you're going to see that you can get some of the best leverage. What I mean that you own the entire property and you only have this much invested in it, and we have to look into the future. Real estate is a medium to long-term investment. It's not a short-term investment, and even if it's your single-family home, you have to ask yourself, with the things that I'm showing you here and the things of the research that you're doing on your own, which way are prices going to go? Because if they're going to go up, like Jim Gaines, in the economist for the Texas A&M Research Center, very highly respected, says 4 to 5% per year, and you only put 3.5% down, what is your return on that investment every year? It's huge. It's 100% during the first year, and it's called equity, difference between what you owe. Now, if you're in other parts of the country and you think the values are going to go down, then rent. Because if value is going down, you want to not ride that down, you want to rent. So you have to ask yourself, are values in Austin going to go up or are they going to go down? And we'll show you some charts to just help you decide that. But I think that with knowing that jobs are here and people are moving here, that's going to keep, and they're not building enough to keep up with the pace. I think we're going to see pretty good appreciation here. Okay, so most of them, average American homeowners, I would say average Austin homeowner. I wrote this 20 years ago. That's how the seminar has been really pretty much the same thing all these years. Home buying is pretty much the same process, just that the technology's changed. Reflected in the equity of their home. So, most of the average Austin homeowner's net worth is reflected in equity. I can't speak for other parts of the nation right now. All right, 10 steps to the home buying process. That's section 2 or chapter 5. So, if you haven't looked at anything else, then definitely look at that. Daniel, what time we got?
10:34.
Great, we're right on time. Okay, so home buying process is first is decide, commit, make home ownership a goal, and then never give up. I've worked with people for 3 years, 4 years, through their divorces, their bankruptcies, their foreclosures, or whatever it was, but as long as they were willing to make it a goal and do what it took, they were able to get a home. As long as they never gave up and they did what. Now I've had people that have given up, but the bottom line is that don't give up. You can get one if you want one, and so make it a goal. Write it down. Put it on your mirror. I will be a homeowner by this date. That's one of the things we teach in the Power Goals book, because only 3% of the United States has written goals. So if it's homeownership's a goal, then write it down, and then you'll be one of the top 3%. You'll actually have written goals. Okay, step 2 is plan, and you kind of have to have the big why. Why am I doing this? Am I doing it because the realtor told me it's something I should do, or am I doing it because I'm going to be able to not have these other reasons, price increases, rent increases? I want my payment to be stable for the rest of the mortgage, the time that I'm here. One of the things that you want to look at, make sure too, is when you're looking at planning, is how long do you plan on staying in Austin or in this home? In other words, don't buy yourself a home that if you're planning on hopefully getting married and raising a family, don't buy a home that's a 2-bedroom, 1-bath condo. Try to buy your second property first if you can, because right now you can still get great deals on properties, get enough to fulfill your needs for however long the period of time that you think you're going to be here. And a lot of people that say, okay, my kids are in middle school, we plan to put them in college, we're going to downsize in 10 years. Now you know it's 10 years is our time frame. You may not need that huge house in 10 years, but you need it now, so don't. I've had a lot of people that buy that first home and they buy a small little house. Within a year or two, they're back to me saying, hey, I need to buy a bigger house. And it costs them money going out, costs them money going in. Take a time to do a self-analysis. Assess your motives, your needs, your wants, your timing, your current finances, and of course your credit. And these are all things that the mortgage professionals, real estate professionals will help walk you through. One of the biggest things that I've seen for my clients is to take a piece of paper out. This is on my first phone consultation with clients. This is what I tell them. Take a piece of paper out, and on the top, on the left side, put needs. And then put a line down the middle and put on the right side wants. Okay? The needs side of the equation is these are things I absolutely have to have in a home. Now there's got to be a minimum of 3 bedrooms. It's got to be a minimum of 2 baths. It's got to at least have a 1 or 2 car garage. Whatever the needs are. These are almost the have to haves. And this helps, and if you're married or have a significant other, get together with that needs list, because sometimes you'll find that the spouse doesn't have the exact needs that you want. And I can tell you that usually when it comes to the home buying decision, who has the decision making power, where they're going to live? The guy or the girl? Girls. The women. They got to live there. I say, mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. So the lady is usually the one that makes the home buying decision. So the man should definitely pay attention to her needs, of what she needs in a home. And then the wants are, we use this line, it would be nice to have. It would be nice to have a big yard with trees. Or it'd be nice to have a small yard because I don't feel like taking care of it. Okay, or whatever it is. It would be nice to be within 15-minute commute to work. It would be nice to be in this, a need might be, I have to be in this school district for my kids to go to this middle school. Or maybe not important as much, but it would be nice to have my kids going to this school district. And then at the bottom of that page, on the right, I put a little section here that a client taught me after I sold them a house, and they said, you never told me what I didn't want. Now, that's a good question. Okay, so I've added it to the program. Write your don't wants. Something that turns you off, because everybody's different. Every house is different. Every buying situation is different. And to get in your mind, I need to know what you and your significant other's needs are, what their wants are, and then what their turnoffs are. And some turnoffs are different than mine. I've learned not to insult a house. I sold a house in Riviera Springs to a client, and we looked at a lot of houses, and this one house had those green windows, you know, with little circles in it back in the 70s. Little circles, and there you could see through them kind of barely, and they had this, it was like these green windows that were so in back in the 70s, were really ugly as far as I was concerned. So I started calling it the Leprechaun House, because it was green. It was the time that movie came out, the Leprechaun. I started calling it the Leprechaun House. And what ended up happening, they bought the Leprechaun House. And they were happy with their house. And they were happy with my service. But I'll tell you, when they went to go sell it, they didn't use me as their realtor because they thought that I was insulting their house because of the green windows. So it cost me. So I learned not to insult a house. Now, it doesn't mean that I won't look at things that are important about a house, like foundation issues or roof issues, or all the stuff as a real estate professional I have an eye for, and owning property for all these years. I know I'm looking for things that are wrong, but I'm not going to point out my tastes. I'm going to point out the things that are important for resale and things that might cause you trouble down the line. So what is important about the home that you're going to buy? All right, next is, this is probably the most important, is if you don't hear anything about this presentation other than what I'm talking about here, then this is the one you want to make a point on, is that consultation is the key. And that means getting in, with that needs and want list, getting in the mind of what you're trying to do, and you're painting a picture, and then we'll try to meet those objectives. But a lot of people don't realize that real estate, most realtors that have the sign in the yard, or those builders that have those nice big billboards and those model homes, they represent the seller. They represent the owner. Their job is to get the seller the most money. Their job is not to tell you that there's a better house down the street for you that would probably work better for your needs. Their job is to get the seller the best terms, price, and terms. Now, oftentimes, especially home buyers, even first and second and third time home buyers, will go directly to a builder, or they'll go directly to a sign, or go onto the internet and find some home and try to negotiate directly with the seller. Well, the bottom line is there's already a commission built in for your representation. No matter who sells that house, the listing agent who put the sign in the yard will get paid, and the person who's representing you as a buyer, as a buyer's broker, as a buyer's agent, will also get paid, whether it's a new home or a resale home. And oftentimes, our job as a buyer's representative is to get you the best deal. It's to point out things that give you, you're already paying for this representation, so you may as well have the representation. Now, a lot of times, if you ever walked into a builder's model, they'll say, well, do you have a realtor? And your answer should be yes. And I hope that realtor is me. And you can even say that, yes, Kenn Renner is my agent, even if you haven't contacted me. But at least reserve your right to have representation, because you're already paying for it. And so whether you've chosen me or not, it doesn't really matter. Just tell the builder, no, I will have representation when buying this house. Or when you're talking to somebody in an open house that represents the seller, say, I will have representation when I buy this house. And that actually you'll get treated better, because now the real estate professional on the other end knows you're going to have a representative, and they can't pull the wool over your eyes, or they know that you would be just as willing to go down the street and find a better house if it worked better for your needs, if the buyer's agent. I mean, we do stuff like this. You may be looking at this really nice home. A lot of times what happens is people come into the home, and the wife runs to the kitchen, and that's what they look at, and then the master bedroom closet, and then the husband will look at the garage in the backyard. So what I'm looking at is I might open up the master closet and see only one row of clothes of all men's in what should be a family home. What does that indicate? Potential divorce. Probably a divorce, separation. What does that mean? They're probably going to be willing to sell. They're a motivated seller. They might be behind on their payments. We don't know. So, but the bottom line is, you may not have noticed that, but I did. And that gives me a chance to get to the other agent and say, well, tell me what's going on here. And the other agents, other brokers will give me as a representative more and better information than they'll give you. If you call right on the sign, they're going after it. But if they have a professional representative that has got a qualified buyer in their car, they'll give you this unwritten language. They'll give you this information as a broker that we normally wouldn't get if you were just a consumer. Does that make sense? It's important to have your own representation. Now, there are a couple times when people will buy a home directly from me that I represent both the buyer and the seller, but that's called an intermediary, and we won't get into that now. And that's only if you trust me enough and the seller trusts me enough to let me handle that transaction. That's okay. Very few, I'd say 1 in 20 is actually I handle both sides. Okay, next thing, and that's what Mark's going to be talking about, is applying for financing. I can tell you that who you choose as a lender is as important as who you choose as a realtor. Probably maybe even more. And here's what we go back to. The reason is that you're going to pay that mortgage for 30 years. And if it's 0.25% higher than what it should have been, or here's an even worse case scenario, when the builder's lender says, well, we'll give you a couple $1,000s if you go with our builder's lender over here, or we'll give you $5,000 to go with this, but they're charging you a higher rate because that's always a shell game. You may want to double think that and think about, okay, what's the real rate? What's it really going to cost me over the life of the loan? And do I really want to go with that? So I can spend a whole seminar talking about how builders, and it's in the book, how they, under home building secrets, one of the chapters towards the end, where you will find out the shell game that they do with builders. I'm not saying that all builders lenders are not competitive, but I'm just saying you want to make sure you check and double check, and that's why you have a realtor representative and a lender representative that knows the rates on a day-to-day basis before you lock. Can mean all the difference in the long-term investment. So you're looking for a lender, not an interest rate. You're not going to be looking for an interest rate. People shop for interest rate. I can tell you they passed about a year ago to 2 years ago. When was it, Mark, when they passed the real estate legislation nationwide?
A couple years ago.
A couple years ago. The rates are about like this for all lenders now. Okay, they're not that far apart. So if you're seeing this incredibly low rate being advertised, buyer beware. Because if there were a rate that was so low, then everybody would go to that lender and there would be no competition, right? So the bottom line is you find a good lender, not an interest rate. Some of the things too I would recommend is don't go, if you can possibly avoid it, don't go with what we call one of the big box banks. Who would they be? I can't say it, right? I don't want to get in trouble. Okay, there's 5 of them. One starts with a CH, the other one is B of, and then there's, at the bottom line, there's about 5, well something. There's about 5 of them. Don't go with them. Try not to go with them. Use a local mortgage company that has your best interest in mind. Otherwise, you're going to deal with an 800 number. And they're not set up. They're actually having to deal with so much of the fallout and so much infrastructure with dealing with the whole what's happened over the last 5 years. They really don't. I can tell you, one of those big box banks, I told my client not to do it, not to go with them, and we were supposed to close on Friday, and we're still waiting. It puts the seller out, it puts me as the buyer's agent out. Well, I promised, we could close on time. It's been 60 days this lender has had this loan. And I just told him, I said, and it's embarrassing. It's not fun. So try to stay away from the big box banks. Lender's going to look at your income, assets, and your liabilities, and you want to go out with a pre-approval before you go anywhere. Pre-approval letter is almost mandatory now. And no one's going to take your offer seriously if you don't have a pre-approval letter. Even if you're going to a builder, get a pre-approval letter and have it in hand so that you know. First of all, pre-approval letter will tell you exactly what the maximum you can qualify for a loan. And that's important because, believe it or not, people qualify these days for a lot more than they're willing to pay. And so they qualify for a lot more than they're willing to pay. Well, that's nice, but you need to know your ceiling because you might want to have a perfect house in a perfect situation, or REO or foreclosure that was just an awesome deal that you could get, but you didn't know you qualified. Or maybe you don't qualify for so much, and you're out looking at houses you can't afford. So that's just. So get yourself a pre-approval letter. Mark will be here. His business card's here. That's what he does all day long, is get people pre-approved and close the transaction on time. Right, Mark?
Yes, sir.
All right. That's Mark in the back corner, yeah. So get that pre-approval letter. It's like having a suitcase of money in your hands. Okay, search for and find the property. Okay, this is an important point that I bring up in the book under this particular section. The home buying process has changed because of technology. Back in the days when George and I were selling real estate at the beginning, we had this big giant book called the MLS book, and it was all the properties that would come out once a month and had these nice little pictures, kind of look like it was as thick as a phone book, these little pictures of houses. Not so anymore. It's all internet. Everybody can go hopping on the internet and have all the same information as the realtors, almost as much as the realtors have, and go and look at properties, and they can go find them. Okay, the difference is in Texas is a non-disclosure state. So the difference is you can find out what you can buy these homes for, you can find out the address, you can get the pictures, you can drive to the open house, you can look at it, or drive to the door and look at it, but you won't get the sold information. You won't get what the comparable homes have sold for in the neighborhood. That's the big difference, and it's a non-disclosure state in Texas, and so don't go with the internet searches for finding value. The Zestimates from Zillow truly is estimate of value. You know what they're using? They're using average of tax values from last year, a year and a half ago, because that's all they have was 2011 January 1st, 2011 assessments to go off of. That's the only public information they have. I can tell you things have changed between 2011 and now, so as far as values are concerned. And so the only way you can find that information is to get with a real estate professional who has access to all the sold information, and that's proprietary to the Austin Board of Realtors. You won't get it online. You can get some sale information, but not what it takes to make a wise decision on a home. So I'm finding that it used to be people would give me their needs and wants lists and the parameters, and I would line up 5 or 6 homes for them, and then we would go look. Well, now it's kind of changed a little bit. Everybody's now has all the same properties. They look at them all, and they give me the 5 or 6 properties they want to go look at, and that's fine by me. And I also show them ones that they might have missed that would have fit their needs. So we'll go tour the properties, and I have myself. I'm a realtor who's hands-on, and I work with you from start to finish. And but I do have showing assistants that will help open doors for you. That's oftentimes what happens when you're searching for a property. You'll looked at the entire inventory in the area that you want to be, and you haven't found it. So what happens is we have to wait and see what comes on the market. And oftentimes right now it's a hot seller's market, so you have to jump on it. Well, I have a showing assistant who will open the door for you. And Mary and Linda are out there in the front, and we'll introduce you to them in a minute here. So there's many factors and considerations, your pros and cons, whether you want to buy new or resale, and it doesn't feel like home. First of all, what I tell you, this is another kind of thing I've learned through the years. Use a 1 to 10, with 10 being the best, as a ranking scale for the homes as you go on your tour. In other words, well, that's a 9, that's a 5, that's a 6, that's an 8, that's a 1, that's a 0. I don't like. And here's the thing: if you don't even like the house or the neighborhood from the front, don't think you're insulting me by saying, let's move on, because you may not. I mean, you're not going to buy the house anyways if you don't even like the way it looks. So that's really important. Is when you're ranking the houses, you're going to find some 8s and 9s, and maybe a 9.5, or even a 10. If you get to a 10, you can stop the car and tell Ken, let's get our paperwork together. This is home, and that's what happens a lot of times. Is I'll turn to the client and say, everything that you said works in this house, but does it feel like home? And they've even done that with my wife a lot of times when we're looking at properties, and we've said everything fits. It's got the view. It's got everything. Everything fits, but it doesn't feel like home. So make sure that it can feel like home. So also, you got to overlook some of the dysfunctional things that you might find in houses that could really be a great house for you, but maybe it's decorated bad, or it's got these terrible paint on the walls, or whatever it may be. All right, now we get into the negotiation, and that's my job. The great thing is, when you have your buyer's agent, you don't have to negotiate with the builder or the other seller. In fact, you don't even want to talk. Buyers and sellers should not even get together and even talk about anything, because I've seen buyers actually get upset at their sellers, and the seller get upset at the buyer because they met at the house for whatever reason by accident, and all of a sudden the seller says, that's the last person I'm going to sell this house to. So don't do that, because we're there to be your mediators between buyer and seller. And you don't want to buy directly from the builders either, because the builder's job is to what? Get the highest value for their corporation. And they won't tell you about the hidden dollars that they've got in what they call their back pocket. But we do. And so that's one of the things that you're going to be looking at. So we're going to discuss your terms and timing. The contracts now are 13 pages long. So you want your representative, hopefully me, to fill that contract out. Okay? And so you also deposit some earnest money, which is it's a small deposit of usually 0.5 to 1% of the sales price that goes to a title company that says, I'm serious about buying this house. It's held by a third-party title company, so it's not like you're giving it to the seller. I'm serious about buying this house and taking it off the market while I go through the process of the loan and everything like that. And then you'll also have option money, and this is your big out, usually $100 to $200, to have you able to inspect the property during the first 10 or 15 days of the search. So of the contract. So usually 10 days you get to have it inspected by a state licensed inspector. You can bring contractors in if you're worried about anything, foundation people, roof people, whatever, during that 10 days. And if there's anything wrong that you're not happy about, you can back out. It's called the unrestricted right to terminate during that option period. This is also what I call your buyer's remorse period. You use this to get out if you just have a panic attack. And buyer's remorse, I'll guarantee you, here's one thing you won't hear in any other seminar, is a natural thing that happens in all purchase transactions, no matter what. The beginning, at the end, in the middle. And if you're buying with a significant other, then I hope that you don't have buyer's remorse together at the same time. So if you have buyer's remorse and it's happened in my purchases, it's okay. Just work through it. Call your real estate representative. Have them help you through it, because it happens all the time. And like I've closed over 1,000 homes, and we just work through it. So hopefully it won't last too long. Okay. So your agreement also will determine who pays closing costs. Daniel, what time we got?
It's 10:55.
Great. Your agreement determines who will pay the closing costs. And this is a big point, because a lot of people think, oh, wow, I've got 3.5% or whatever, and Mark's going to allude to this in a little bit. Well, and then I got all these closing costs I got to pay, which could add up to 2 or 3%. Now I'm looking, gosh, I got to buy a $200,000 house, and it's going to cost me, let's see, $7,000 down payment, another $7,000. It's going to cost me $14,000 to get in this house. No, it doesn't, because you can have the seller pay the closing costs. And that's what we do in most of our transactions, even in investor transactions, is we have the seller pay a portion or all of the closing costs. Well, how much can they pay on an FHA? Can a seller pay?
6% of the sales price.
Okay, so you can have your seller pay all the closing costs. That's everything that it costs to acquire the loan and everything else involved in purchasing the property other than your down payment. And you also have a down payment. You have down payment assistance programs now?
Yeah, We'll talk about that.
Okay, so you can even get in a house for zero for less than its first and last month's rent. And you know, I mean, so that's what we're looking at with the lowest interest rates. And here, it's cheaper to buy a house than it is to get into your next rental in a lot of ways. And the payments are less than rent. Because we landlords are raising our rents, and we will continue to do so as long as we can. George has got this. What's your name?
Susan.
Hi, Susan.
Hi. He's my landlord.
Has he raised his rent?
Yeah, last year he did.
Nice guy.
But he's a good landlord. He's
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we have proof here in the room, and so George, my father-in-law, has actually brought his client in here to learn that, and that's really nice. That he's going to lose a tenant to go on. All right. So all right. The next step is that once we've negotiated that contract to purchase and close the terms and the timing. Usually 30 days is the 30 to 45 days on a resale purchase contract. 60 days on the outside. And so when you're planning on buying a home, if you're going to buy a resale home, start looking at least 90 days out. Why? Because it's going to take you, first of all, you get pre-approved and all that, and it's going to take you maybe 30 days to find the right property, and then another 45 to 60 to close. So if you're 3 months out from your lease expiring, you want to try to start out. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't do it sooner. If you want to be in by the end of the year or by Thanksgiving time, we certainly can do that. But I'm just saying is that if you're just, as a rule of thumb, resale, start 90 days out. If you're buying a new home and you want to build a new home construction, start at least 9 months out from 1 year. So a lot of people sign a new lease and go, well, I'm stuck in it for a year. I'm going to say, well, I'm going to call you in a couple months because if you're going to buy a new home and build it from scratch, it's going to take 2 or 3 months maybe, or a month to find the right house, and it could take 6, 7, 8 months to build that house. And so just realize that it's a longer time frame for being able to purchase a home, and start early so you got plenty of opportunities. Here's what's going to happen: you start looking at properties, and all of a sudden you got to learn the values of homes. The realtor knows the values, but you have to educate yourself that you feel comfortable when this right one comes by, because that right one has got about 10 other people looking at it. They've got their realtor saying this is the best deal in town. Boom, it's gone. And that's what we're seeing. We are in a seller's market, especially in the lower end. Seller's market, we're less than a 3-month supply. And in the summertime, we had less than a 1 month supply under 150,000. All right, so your earnest money is deposited. This is what happens after you sign a contract. All this activity starts. You get you're supplying your documentation to the lender. You're putting a deposit to the title company. You're doing an option fee. You're hiring your inspector. And you're doing all this. So the activity is really a lot during that first week, 10 days. Then everything kind of goes through that process during the next 3 to 4 weeks where it's kind of calms down. And then at the end, when you're ready to close, the activities start up again. Lots of things going on, lots of loose ends to tie up. Final walkthrough where you're actually going to walk through the property and make sure it's everything you want. It's a little bit different process with home building as it is with a resale home. With a new home building, you're going to go ahead and start your process in the contract of the home being built, and you'll be doing your walkthrough at the end, but then you'll go back and do another walkthrough because you're going to do a punch list and make sure that everything. Now I walk through, or my assistants walk through every house with you, because we are experts at seeing stuff that people will overlook. We look at thousands of homes a year. So like a new construction, there's so many times when they try to hide something, especially my big pet peeve is cabinets. You're paying a lot for those cabinets in the kitchen. The kitchen sells the house later on. They'll hide scratches and dents, or the superintendent will say, oh, that's within tolerances. I don't buy a new car with dents and scratches in it, so I'm not going to buy a new house with that. You can be very picky on your finish out on that, but you need to have somebody that's going to vouch for you and say, no, this is not acceptable. You're going to have to fix it. Does it make sense? Okay. All right, we're here at the end, getting close. You're going to have it inspected, and we're going to negotiate for a resale. We're going to have it reviewed for potential repairs. I can tell you every home that I've ever closed has between 3 and 30 items that need to be fixed. Even new homes, I always say 3 and 30 items, because I've never had a property that didn't have inspection items that maybe not up to code anymore or whatever it may be. But this is your inspection will allow you to review the property and negotiate for whether it's a broken window or whatever, a stain on the carpet or an AC that needs to be repaired. You'll give you an opportunity to go back to the seller and get some money to get those things fixed, or have them fix it. So it's still further negotiations when you're doing your inspection. Now, if you can't get to agreement about who's going to do what repairs, because 10 days is kind of a short period, we can work on getting you an extension to the option period, so you still feel like you have an out in case you can't come to terms. And then if you can't come to terms, or the house has too many problems, or then you can cancel the contract based on this option period. And the cancellation can be done during those first 10 days for no reason whatsoever. I even say if the wind's blowing the wrong direction on that house, you can back out during the option period. The idea is not to back out. The idea is to satisfy the conditions. And the conditions are, the 13-page contract is nothing but a set of conditions that need to be satisfied. And so they have to be, the conditions need to be satisfied, the contingencies need to be removed, all the loan documents need to get to the lender to make sure that we're done with what the loan company needs, and then you're going to perform a final walkthrough before you close on the house. Any of those repairs, whether it be a builder punch list or whether it be your list of things that you ask the seller to do, that's why we go back just before closing and make sure they're done. Okay. Then you're at the closing, and this is where you become a homeowner. Closing is performed at the title company. The title company is the people that held your earnest money, and this is where you'll get title. You'll leave the closing, hopefully with the keys, and enjoy the benefits and responsibilities of being a new homeowner. And then along the way, you're going to find that I'm always asking for a referral. So if anybody here doesn't want to buy a home from me, will you please refer somebody that does want to buy a home? No, but if you did buy a home, it's the best time to say, wow, we're really happy with our realtor, and they're talking about it, and you're doing this. And we even like to buy pizza for the pizza parties after you close, and and come to know your neighbors and all your friends. And because we want to, it's not just the closing when you own the house, it's on down the line. Because one of my really important things, I find that every home sale is actually 2 sales. Why is that? It's because I hope that you bought it from me, but now I'm going to have to help sell you that house down the road, 5, 7, 10 years, and I'll be here. I'm only 49, so I'll be in the business. So 4 or 5 years down the line when you want to sell, that's why I'm so picky about making sure my clients get the best house, and not from a builder that is known for their values or their construction that is shoddy, or known an area that's probably going to go downhill because of where it's located and what's coming in and things like that. So I'm looking at the sale not only to help you close on the right home, but also when the time comes to sell that house down the line. All right, so I'm going to finish up here with who's involved in this on this purchase contract. I'm not going to read this list because you can read it for yourself, but this is why I always say it's so important that you guys as home buyers realize that you are first-class citizens. When I started doing these home buying seminars in 1994 is because they felt like the first-time home buyer was not being treated right by the professionals out there, because professionals thought they were low return on their investment of time. But I turned it around and said, well, how, to bring this economy out nationwide, what happens when a home buyer buys a home? Look at all these people. You, as a home buyer, you pay every one of these salaries. All these people involved, and there's more than this. Everybody that's involved in building your house, you as a home buyer are paying these salaries. So that's what I feel like. You're paying my fee through the purchase of the house because the seller's paying my commission. You're paying all these fees to pay for these salaries. So you should be treated like the first-class citizen you are. Same thing with a resale, a new home. You should be treated like a first-class citizen, get the best deal because you're putting everybody to work, including the builder, sales manager, and the president and the CEOs of the company. You're paying for their salaries. All right. I'm going to let Mark talk about the loan side of things. And I'm just going to gloss over this because Mark's going to come on down, Mark, and welcome. This is Mark Hairston. He's Texas, he owns Mortgage IQ. He's also a Texas real estate commission instructor.
Correct.
So you're talking to the expert here. And to talk a little bit about the qualifications on getting a mortgage.
Right.
Okay. One of the things that I want to point out when Mark gets started here is some of the secrets I have in the book that cost a lot of people some aggravation. Number one, buy the house before you buy the car. Because a $400 house payment will knock off about $50,000 in home buying power. Now, they will sell that same car to you the day after you close on the house, most likely. But if you bought the house, and you've had experiences where people I bought the.
Yeah. A few months ago, I did,
A few
yeah.
months ago. Okay, so that's one of the thing. Don't go into debt. Don't charge anything more on your credit cards when you're buying a home. A lot of people will go out to Best Buy and charge up a whole bunch on appliances and new DVDs and big TVs before closing. Don't do that. The other thing is if you're salaried and you plan on starting your own company, buy the home before you start your own consulting business if you can. And the reason is that W-2 borrowers, we use their income just the way it is. Self-employed people is a 2-year history, and we use your net, not your gross, like we do with income. So, did you want to go to your slides here?
That'd be okay?
Okay. I can jump up there.
Oh, they're not, I've got to jump the other show.
Oh, okay. Well, you could probably use this. No. Come on.
Either
come
way,
on.
do I get the clicker?
No. It's extra.
I never speak without a clicker.
Come on over here. You got this. Oh, did you change the streaming?
No, I'll keep it straight.
Okay.
Well, thanks, Ken. Give a little round of applause for Ken. Or a hand clap, if you will. Yeah, I appreciate you guys being here. I was kidding earlier, this is kind of like a college room here. The advantage, there's no test at the end, so just sit back and enjoy. I'm going to give you a little bit of my background. Again, my name is Mark Hairston. Is there already
It's the click on the right.
Okay. Is it
working?
It'll work, yeah. And my company in town is called Mortgage IQ. My background is I've been in Austin since 1977, so 35 years. I just got back from my high school reunion last weekend. Thank God for name tags. But anyway, I came to Austin in 77 to go to college, went to University of Texas, and we got a hook and horns tonight against West Virginia. But I got the mortgage business in 1985. And so I've been doing home loans here for 27 years, and that's all we do. We're mortgage bankers. We're not commercial bankers like Ken talked about the big boxes. All we do for 27 years is home loans. We work with home buyers. We work with people buying second homes. We work with investors as well. So having said that, in addition, I'm also the first lender in the city to be approved by the Real Estate Commission to teach. Realtors by law have to have a certain amount of hours each year to continue their licensing. And I was approved by the Real Estate Commission to teach education courses, and that's what I do on an ongoing basis. And I've taught over 3,000 realtors in Austin. George is one of them, and George is a good one, and Ken's an excellent agent. Having said that, the reason I say that is that there's a lot of people out there that aren't so professional. There's a lot of realtors out there that are marginal. So again, part of that teamwork is to find somebody like Kenn Renner, who is a pro at what he does. And everybody got one of my little charts. This is actually something I hand out to agents when I teach them, to give them a kind of a resource guide of different types of mortgage products available to clients. And I thought it'd be a nice tool for y'all as well. So if you have questions, you can certainly call that number right at the bottom. Okay, and somebody will answer your phone call. Now we're going to talk, and out of respect for time, I know everybody's everybody's time is important, so I'm not going to go through all my slides because some of it's going to be repetitive to what Ken talked about. So I want to jump into what it takes to get a mortgage loan these days, if that's okay. Who in here has owned a home before? Or maybe currently owns? And some of you are first-time buyers possibly, okay? So I'm going to just work through some of this because, again, some of this is what Ken was talking about. But I do want to just mention that currently, interest rates are driving our marketplace. We are in the best market we've seen in a long, long time. As a matter of fact, July of this year, you got to remember, I've been in this 27 years. July of this year was my best month in business ever. So there's a lot of activity going on. And the main thing that's driving this market, as Ken said, is jobs, number one, and maybe interest rates, number one, or maybe number two, certainly. Rates are down around 3.5%. I got into business in 1985 when they were around 12.5%. We were refinancing people at 10% and thinking that was a great deal.
Yeah.
So we've seen, because of the recession or the depression we're in currently, we're seeing some phenomenal interest rates. As a matter of fact, my wife and I took advantage of these rates last year and bought a home. So we sold a condominium, we were at 6.25, and we could buy up because the rates had come down. And we were at 4.5, and I said, honey, I've been in this a long time. I said, this is the bottom. She said, okay. So we locked in our rate at 4.5. And then she said, I thought you were so smart. I said, well, we can't run them all. These are historically low interest rates. So,
Where are they
again,
headed, Mark?
pardon me?
Where are they headed after the election?
Well, it's hard to say. I think rates are going to stay relatively low until we come out of this recession, or we're building up. But after the election, I think we may see a spike, depending on, again, who wins this. But I thought this would be a chart to just to kind of keep in mind. And I also wanted to second what Ken was saying. I will be happy to send this PowerPoint to you guys if you choose by email. So again, what do I do? The first thing to do when buying a home, whether it be an investment property or otherwise, is get it pre-approved. While sellers will not entertain an offer generally, and having, talking about the good marketplace, I will say that loans are a little hard to get than they were a few years ago, okay? It is what it is. Not too many years ago, we were doing what we call ninja loans. No job, no income, no assets, no nothing, okay? Anybody could apply and get a loan. These days, a little different. So the pre-approval process basically makes you a cash buyer. So we have pre-approved your loan, and you can confidently go out there and say, yes, I'm good to borrow $200,000 or $300,000 or whatever the number is. And we'll put that in writing, and we'll guarantee it. Unless something fundamentally changes between the application and closing, certainly you lose a job or whatnot. But there's primarily four things. This is what I learned in business 27 years ago. Back in the 80s and 90s, there wasn't any funny money. Mortgage loans were underwritten with a fairly conservative basis like they are today. There's four things that lenders are going to address every single time, no exceptions. I bought my home, no exceptions. I had to come up with all the same things as everybody else. The first thing is what we call the 4 C's is capacity. The capacity is basically somebody's ability to earn enough money to qualify for the loan. Number 2 would be cash to close. Now some loans, like Ken was talking about, don't require any loan. I do several loans, we'll talk about that in a second, that don't require any down payment. Most loans require a certain level of down payment, and lenders are going to verify where that money comes from. Number 3 is credit history. Credit history is a huge part of our underwriting these days because of what's happened in the marketplace in the last several years because of some of the lending problems that we had over the last few years. And of course, the collateral. Ken talked a lot about the properties. And so lenders are also interested in the collateral because if something goes bad, that's what we have to resell in the marketplace. We want to make sure that the collateral is good. So let's kind of go through these, and then we're going to have a little Q&A, and then get on to the next one. But the passive income, we want to see really a 2-year track record of income. There are exceptions. If you're recently graduated college and you go into the workforce, we use college as 2 years. Doesn't mean you have to be on the same job for 2 years. It simply means that we like to see that you have the same consistent line of work. So if you're an engineer, we like to see that you're an engineer as opposed to going to sell cars next, something like that. Debt to income, they're pretty conservative on how much they will lend you based on how much debt you carry in terms of car payments or student loans or revolving credit. So we like to keep that around 45 to 50% of your gross income. So you make $5,000 a month before taxes. We'd like to keep your total debt structure, not your utilities, but just your housing payment plus your other debts to about $2,500 in that case. And then compensating factors. We also look at compensating factors like if you're on your job a long time, that would be a compensating factor. Your credit's very good, that's a compensating factor. So there's other things that go into underwriting besides just the numbers, but it has become somewhat a little more black and white. We can walk you through that process. Number 2 is cash to close. On my chart, you're going to see basically 4 different types of financing. These types of loans have been around forever. Okay, FHA has been around since the 30s. VA loans have been around since the 40s. So again, these are not new types of loans, but there's 2 types of loans that still don't require any money down, USDA and VA. Now there's certain limitations. You have to be a qualified veteran to get a VA loan. Okay? But if you are, then that's probably the best loan for you. USDA is a great loan for folks who want to move into some of the outlying areas, like parts of Leander, or Kyle, Texas, or Buda, or maybe Hutto or Taylor. Some of the surrounding areas allow you to put no money down, but there are limitations on how much you can earn and where you live. So again, that would be a product for people that meet those guidelines. FHA is probably the more popular one because it doesn't have any limitations. You can live anywhere and you can earn, there's no income limits on FHA. And again, some of these things are described here. It does require a down payment of 3.5%. But as Ken was suggesting earlier, most of the times the seller will participate, the seller or the builder, in the closing fees. There's charges Like Ken was saying, a lot of people get paid along the way. Okay, there's closing costs associated with each type of loan that the seller can't pay for. And then finally, conventional financing is a loan that allows you to go to $417,000 with the best rates, which right now I locked in one yesterday for a borrower, a single woman buying a property, her first home. She's putting down 5%. She got 3 3/8, 3.375 30 fixed. She's borrowed $180,000. Her total payment's $1,250 a month, less than she's paying rent. So it's a phenomenal opportunity. And cash to close is sometimes we can use gift funds. A lot of times our first-time buyers, actually in this case, her daddy was going to give her some money to help her out. Or 401k loans. Some people may have a retirement plan, an IRA or 401k that they can tap into for their down payment if they need to. And also, we also have down payment assistance programs, but they're usually designed for first-time buyers. So if you haven't owned a home in 3 years of primary residence, you may qualify for down payment assistance either through the city or the state programs. Now, credit is again, a huge factor. In the mortgage industry, we use a thing called a FICO score. Now, in the marketplace, there's different scoring models out there, but lenders, all lenders, not just me, the banks, credit unions, mortgage brokers, we all use a thing called a FICO score, which is a score that, actually it's 3 scores, most of you would have 3 scores, pulled by the 3 bureaus, and the ranges are from 300 to 850. We usually like to see around a 640 middle score in order to qualify for a loan these days. There are exceptions, but typically lenders have gone to a guideline, a basis of 640, and we can help people. One of our courses we teach is called Insider's Guide to Credit Scoring. So we spend 3 hours talking about the credit model that we use and how to not manipulate it so much, but how it works and how you can improve your score. If you're at 600, right now I have a young lady who's a disabled veteran, and she came in Thursday for an application. She's at 600. I said, well, I can't help you today, but let's get a game plan. I'll get you 40 points, or in her case, 20 points. VA allows you to go to 620. You know, the VA loans are wanting to help veterans, so I said, we can get you 20 points in probably 30 days. So we're going to work with her. This chart here is actually what goes into a FICO score, the things that influence the score, primarily payment history, amounts that you owe on your credit cards and otherwise, how long you've had credit. 15% of your score is how long you've had credit. 10% is based on your inquiries. Have you had a lot of inquiries into your credit recently that may hurt your scores a little bit? And types of credit used. So I won't go into detail because I spend 3 hours on this subject and I'm doing it in about 5 seconds. But just keep in mind there's all sorts of elements that go into your scoring model, and the higher your score, the better deal you're going to get. Okay? And then, of course, the collateral, which is usually your appraised value and the condition of the property. Lenders like to know that the property's worth for appraisal, what you're paying for, because we're kind of in bed with you, if you will. Some of you may be cash buyers, it's a little bit different situation, but if you are coming to get a mortgage loan, you will need to get an appraisal. And again, we're seeing an appreciation in our marketplace. So we haven't had any challenges per se with low appraisals, but it is something that we're going to look at pretty hard. And of course, the condition. We don't like to see that you're buying a property with a poor slab or the roof's worn out. We want some of those things fixed prior to making a loan on those. That's again Kenn's role in this on a larger level, is to find properties that would meet those condition requirements. And then finally, I wanted to wrap this up because I wanted to do some Q&A with Ken, of course. And I have in your package, I have left you a sheet of 10 questions you may ask as you're shopping around, because there's lots of competition out there. And I kind of give you a little hint on maybe when you're talking to people what some questions to ask and to make sure that you're going to get the best deal, not only in terms of rate and fees and price, but their experience. We as mortgage professionals, we take a certain pride. Again, it's all we do is mortgage loans. We don't do car loans or land loans or building loans. We just do residential mortgages. So in your package or part of your handouts, you're going to see some questions to ask lenders. And that's kind of my little section of the deal. I know it's kind of quick, but I'll be around for questions if you have questions. And I've never written a book before, so I don't have a book to give. But I can just give you 27 years of experience. So.
Well, thanks, Mark. I really appreciate that. And I wanted to just highlight a couple things that we didn't cover that's really important. I also want to do a giveaway, so that's kind of nice. One of the things that we worked out on payments, just a ballpark, so you know what your payments are that you can use, a little factor. It's about $7.70 per thousand right now. That's including property taxes, insurance, mortgage insurance. So about on a, say 100,000, it's $770 a month ballpark. On a 200,000, it's about 14. Was that 77?
About $1,500.
About 1,500. So when you're ballparking what you're looking at out there, you just take that loan amount, multiply it by $7.77. It's easy to remember, 777, right? And that'll give you a pretty good idea how much that payment's going to be. Obviously, it changes depending on tax rate and insurance rates and things like that, but that'll give you a good ballpark. The other way is you can self-qualify yourself pretty easily by taking, if you've got decent credit, taking your gross monthly income and cutting it in half. That's 50%, and then subtracting out your other debts like car payments, student loans, really just revolving an installment. We're not talking about insurance or anything like that, not your homeowners or your renter's insurance, just your installment and credit card debts, minimum monthly payments on those. Whatever's left over is what's left over for a house payment. Okay, so then you divide that by 0.777, and that'll give you what the loan amount is that you qualify for. If you missed that, really,
If you missed that,
get him on the call.
I'll give you a quick example I like to use in class, in that I've never seen a market like this in 27 years of doing mortgage loans. Is I did a loan this past spring for a young lady in South Austin. She was living over on Westgate Boulevard and William Cannon area. For 3 years, she was renting a single-family property over there. And again, her rents were going up, because it's a high-demand area, South Austin. And she was paying about $13.50 a month in rent. It had just gone up to $13.50. So in the meantime, the landlord decides to sell the property, the owner. And she said, well, I want to buy this property. She came in and we financed it. Okay, so she's buying the property she's lived in for 3 years, renting. Her payment on a mortgage was $11.50 a month, $200 less than she was paying rent to own the same house. So that's just an example, maybe an extreme one, but it's I think it's a good one. So,
Good. Does anybody have any questions right now? We're going to go Q&A for a little bit, and then we'll give you guys a break, and whoever wants to stay, and we'll also do a giveaway. But before we get started, okay, go ahead.
I just have one question for the mortgage. Do they still do stated incomes for qualifying mortgage, or
No.
do they do?
good question. They don't do stated incomes. Everything is what they call full documentation. That was part of that, we used to call Alt-A or funny money, where you didn't have to state, you just stated how much you earned,
Right.
but you didn't have to, prove it. Nowadays, everybody has to come up with tax returns.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. Yes.
If you're purchasing a home and you have and you're trying to qualify for a loan, and you have a rent home, can that be helpful in qualifying for the loan?
You can't.
Repeat the question. So
The question is, if you own a rental property and you want to qualify for a new home to live in, is that correct?
Yeah.
Could that property be helpful? And the answer is yes. I closed a loan yesterday for a realtor who I know who owns 6 rental properties. And a majority of his income, not a majority, but a certain percentage of his income came from his rental properties. So that helped him qualify for a home he's going to be moving into.
Okay, so you could only take what the money you're making from that rental home to be part of your income. Is that how it would help you?
Yes, you have to take a
Percentages.
percentage of it. We take 75%, let's say you rent a property for $1,000, we'll give you $750 credit for that rental property. Okay, as far as income. Now, then we also deduct the mortgage, so your mortgage payment is $750, then it's a wash. Does that make sense?
Well, what if you have like a lot of equity? That doesn't help you?
That doesn't really help. No, they're not looking for equity positions, they're looking for income.
But you can lease that property out.
Sure.
To qualify. Let's say you had a free and clear property and you want to qualify for the mortgage, and you can lease it out, and as long as their tenants actually sign the agreement and put the deposit, giving you the deposit, then you can use that income.
That's right.
So what if I had a home that was, the rent was, I was receiving $1,400 a month, and our mortgage on that home is $1,100?
Okay, so it's going to be about a wash. We'll take 75% of the $1,400.
So it wouldn't.
It wouldn't help you in that case. Okay? Yes, sir.
When I go to the bank to apply to be pre-approved for a mortgage loan, what documentation or information do I need to bring with me?
You mean when you come to me?
Yeah.
Let's just be clear.
What information would you like me to bring?
Well, there's going to be, and I can talk to you right, there's typically 2 years of income, okay, 2 years of W-2s and bank tax returns, bank statements for a couple months, latest pay stub. Those are the primary things we're gonna ask you for, and we'll run your credit. Okay? And there's a detailed, more little detailed list, but that's kind of the general list. 2 years tax returns, pay stubs, and bank statements.
Can I just ask you a question about the mortgage process, but about the real estate market right now?
Okay.
In Austin specifically.
Yes?
You mentioned, for instance, that there's a very short supply of the lower priced homes. I'm wondering where you're seeing pools of supply actively in the Austin area or in terms of price band.
The question is, where is the low supply and the high supply of homes? It's like any real estate cycle, the cycle starts in the low end. It gets bought up, the supply gets lower and lower. Those people then can now buy higher priced homes. Then those people that were sold a $120,000 home that bought a $250,000 home allows that $250,000 buyer to move to the $500,000 and $600,000 if that's where they want to go. So there's a process, that's a typical cycle in the market. So our supply is very low. Lowest supply is under 150,000. It's an equilibrium market somewhere in between 3 and 4, and it's a buyer's market in the higher price ranges, 750 to $1 million. A lot of that has to do with the financing that's more difficult, and there's more supply out there. So really, it's that the whole market cycle starting again, and we're seeing a lot. Last summer, we saw multiple offer situations. Fortunately, now on that low end, under 200. But now we've kind of gotten back to a little bit more equilibrium market as far as being able to make a buying decision, be able to get your offer in, and not have to feel like you're fighting against 20 other offers, which makes it more comfortable. Yeah.
When you refer to last summer, are you talking about the last 2
Yeah,
months?
2 months ago, 3 months ago. Overheated market. Now we're a little more comfortable with being able to actually. It's frustrating as a real estate, especially on the buyer side, where you have 20 offers and only one real estate agent, one client's going to get that property. So I don't like those markets unless I'm a listing agent, but I mean, and I don't even like that because then I got to tell 19 other people that they can't get the home. Fortunately, now we're in a situation where you're not seeing, it's still a very solid market, but it's not like you're going to have to be in a bidding war on every property that comes up.
So which months would you say those were?
June, July was very hot time, and then August it's the same market cycles in Austin based around schools a lot, and then we also run into the holiday times where things slow down a little bit. But I'll tell you, in the holiday times coming up is when you have your serious buyers and your serious sellers. So that's not. I love working through the holidays because of the seriousness of the buyer when involved with that. So I'm going to introduce a couple of people that are on my team. Like I said, I work with you one-on-one, but I don't do everything. I need to have a team behind me. That's Linda Schulman and showing assistant, and Mary Lewis. She is my contract coordinator, along with Stephanie, who's not here, who does my paperwork. And then George is also showing. George's been 35 years in the real estate industry. Stand up, George. And so we're all available to help you with showing properties, and the whole purpose of the seminar obviously is to get connected with you, and we want to help you through that process. A lot of people come to my seminars and think, wow, that was a great education, I'm going to go find a realtor. No, that's what we're here for. Those ideas that we're here for you. I want to also get you excited. Thanks, you guys. And you can ask them questions too. They've all been in the industry for a long time. Linda's actually been in the title industry for years and years, so if you want to learn anything about title. But I wanted to show you some homes because it's, and that's what gets you excited. All right, let's get in. Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it. Okay. Yeah, thank you, Mark. I know we're running a little bit over for the investor seminar, but we're going to take about a 10-minute break after I show these homes. Here's a home that we have listed, Casa Piedra. We just sold this. It's George's listing, but there's 2 more on this street that were owned by the same owner that they're going to sell. It's about between 1,200 and 1,300 square foot. It's $120,000. The total payments are about $931 with current APR. So I mean $931. Remember, with a deduction for most of that payment is right off of your taxes, right off your taxable income. Here's a house that we have on 7800 Little Deer. It's available. Just had fresh paint. It's about 5 years old. It's $160,000. It's in Georgetown, but it's right near the Georgetown main center. It's $160,000. It's about 1,700 square feet, 1,683 square feet. Only a few years old. It's an example of what $160,000 is. Be $1,195 per month with the current APRs. And I do have the APR disclosure in there just in case anybody is a RESPA cop. Okay, there's the interior of the house, granite countertops, nice cabinets, fresh paint, the tile floors. It's a really nice little house. This is the pool area for it, that everybody that owns a home in that area. It's called the Villages of Berry Creek, right outside the Berry Creek proper. This is a house in Avery Ranch. Do a lot of sales in Avery Ranch, $204,000, and it's $13.98 per month. Nice 2,200 square foot house, couple years old. You could buy it new from the builder, that same floor plan, but it cost you $250,000. So the resales in that neighborhood are selling for quite a bit less than what the builder's charging. Why is the builder charging so much more? They pay huge commissions, and they are at the point where they're able to raise their prices because they have to, because of labor costs, land costs. Here's the inside of that house. Nice place. Island kitchen. This house, I'll be sitting in this house, open house tomorrow from 2 to 5. This is in Avery Ranch. This is on Valley Castle. So if you came up Palmer Lane and made a left on Avery Ranch, come up Palmer Lane and make a left on Avery Ranch Boulevard. It's the 2nd Street on the right is North Canoa Hills. You'll see my open house signs. And I'll be down there at this house from 2 to 5. So if you just want to come out, talk, I get bored at those open houses, so I'd love to talk with you, and we can talk a little bit more about your home buying experience. Now, remember, myself and my team are available during the weekends and evenings when you're not working, and that's a lot of times people say, hey, we work when you're not working. So if you want an appointment in the evening and you want to talk about this stuff, I'll be more than happy to get together with you. But $19.80 a month, $269,000. It's 3,300 square foot, 5-bedroom house. Can't even build it for that price. It's less than $80 a square foot. I think it's even less than that. It's incredible. There's the inside of it. Nice big open kitchen, white cabinets, very fresh, clean looking. Now this is my new listing in Avery Ranch as well, and it's $344,900. It's also about a little over 3,000 square feet on the east side, which is the Round Rock School District, which is where a lot of people want to live, but it's $344,900, $2,430 a month is approximate payment at current APRs. But isn't that nice? Hardwood floors, tile. Linda actually staged this property, my assistant. Didn't she do a good job? Didn't that look nice? It didn't look like that before Linda got a hold of it. So we help our sellers get the property. And there's the kitchen with granite countertops, and Linda actually went out and bought all those lemons and put them in the bowl there. So, okay, so really it's action plans. You become ready, willing, and able, and that's part of the problem. A lot of times you get ready, willing, but not able. We're going to work you through all those things. But you're ready, willing, and able. You're going to make a decision for home ownership. Give us a call, text, email, carrier pigeon. We do a lot about texting right now. It's really good, and I'll do more texting with my clients than I will on the phone, because a lot of times I'm with another client or I'm showing property. I can answer a quick question texting. So let's get ready, let's get set, and let's go. Let's go look at some houses. And there's our contact information. You've got it all in your packets there. And we'd like to go ahead and give away some things. I've got my Power Goals book, and also for the next session is this book called Real Estate Millionaire Real Estate Investor. Of course, it starts with your first home. Start with that first home. Maybe buy that home, live into it a couple of years, and then go buy another home that's bigger and rent the previous house out. That was your question. Rent that previous house out and maybe live there for a little while and then buy another home. And now, technically in 3 years, you could have 3 nice properties, and you become a real estate investor simply by buying your first home. So I want to give one of these away. Daniel, let's go ahead. All right.
Yesenia?
Here you go, run that up to her. All right, congratulations. For anybody that's a goal setter, I'd love to give you, these are available, these are my newest release. I've got audiobook version and the hard copy version, or soft copy, but they're $15 or both, two for $25. And you guys can get that after the seminar, but let's go ahead and pull out another one. And we'll give away the audiobook.
I got 2 actually.
Oh, then they both get one.
You want to do?
That's okay, go ahead.
In June, you?
All right, great. Okay, well, thank you very much. We'll have a 10-minute break or so, and then we'll get into investing for those that want to stay for that. I think you'll find it very valuable.